Live from the apocalypse, this is State of the Game. Love for people who need love, hate for people who need hate. I am your faithful host, Dano. And you know why I'm here? You know why this is happening? Because the first concert that I can remember was B.B. King. I was close to B.B. King, or that's how it felt. He was in a powder blue suit. He was sweating like no one I had ever seen. And he was playing the guitar. Oh, he was playing the guitar. And there were autographed pictures of him from the 40s in the lobby. And I was like, I have to know this music. That's why we're so my co-host, the Jalen Brunson of State of the Game, is K Diggy. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time. We have a guest. I could go on. I could do a large introduction, but simply put, in his own words, this is the artsy dude from the crew who probably fucked your girl. SKECH185.
Hey, how y'all doing? Thank you for having me. And I really will have to explain that line sooner or later. Because I realized years later that it sounds different the way I meant it, even though it's still funny.
So, New Age great. I love New Age.
Yeah, I wasn't the dude that fucked your girl. My friends were. I was the artsy dude from the crew.
Yeah, I was the artsy guy within that collective. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. This is not. We're no trains. This is not a mystical situation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to separate.
Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I'm so excited. This is his first album in 6 years.
Wow.
And this Sketch was beginning to feel like Sasquatch or the Loch Ness Monster or something. Like everyone I loved who did great work talked about how much they owed to Sketch, and to growing up under the tutelage, just seeing Sketch work. And then the Killer Guest verses would come out. Great work on Little Robert Hutton.
Thank you.
Great work, everywhere you've been there. And I was, we were hungering for more. Certainly, I might have actually had you in a Dream Backwoods lineup. I create all kinds of fantasy lineups.
All right.
No, maybe I wanted you to do an album produced by Elucid. Maybe that was it.
We had talked about it years back.
Yeah, no, he's
after we first started producing.
It was amazing. And when it was first announced, my first reaction was, "Oh my God, he gets to get his album mixed and mastered by Dove and Willie Green."
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's like finally getting the tux that fits you.
Yeah.
So what is the difference of having Dove and Green to straighten this stuff out and make it work?
I mean, here's the interesting thing. Willie Green mastered Gunship Diplomacy.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like funny, I actually have a copy of it right here for some reason. But yeah, he had mastered a gunship, so I was already familiar with him. And I like what he did. And I was just like, that's gonna be our go-to guy. Like, it's who Tomorrow Kings is using for our record that we're finishing up right now. It's like just the guy, And Still Tip Dove, I knew I wanted to go with him. Like, my AM breakups just was not around for it, so to speak. And I really dug Still Tip Dove's instrumental albums. He has like all these crazy uses of texture arrangements with a lot of his instrumental records. I was like, I want to work with somebody who can zero in and get that level of depth.
Right.
So it was it was awesome. So I had already worked with Dove to record things for people, and chilled. He was a really cool dude, and Jeff already knew him. So when we started getting to that point where we were mixing, it just was great. It was great. He's very fast. He's very enthusiastic. He has really cool ideas. He knows not he doesn't try to overstep like your aesthetic to make sure his fingerprints are there, but he adds a lot to it. So that was wonderful. Him and Green having a relationship made certain parts of file transfer and getting a one-to-one with the sound perfect. So it was ill. It was really ill. You know, like honestly, it was one of my favorite mixing experiences I've ever dealt with, just because of the level of appreciation about it.
That's awesome. That makes sense. Yeah, it's an important mixing experience because a lot of your previous work was not with Jeff Markey,
Yeah,
Analog Tape Dispenser, who
yeah,
War Church and New Age Middle Finger. I'm not sure
yeah.
how involved in Tomorrow Kings, but I'm guessing there was some involvement with Tomorrow Kings, maybe.
He actually produced the first Tomorrow King song ever, Hungover Driver, which is on our mixtape, Industrial Music.
Yep.
Yeah, so we got together, and he's one of my homies from college, from my college years, and I was just like, "What's up with this beat?" He sent it over. It's the craziest thing, and it was the first thing we ever locked in on as a squad when we were trying to build the chemistry. So yeah,
Yep. No, but Analog Tape Dispenser gives these like really cool, jarring, disjointed sounds that are
yeah,
it's just a very punk rock experience. You
yeah,
know, what was that? I was thinking there's one that really to me typifies it, I think. And I think it's on New Age Middle Finger. It is the General Warning.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Warning is just such a like it is a head nodder. It is fun, but it doesn't feel like it should connect together.
yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, he's a trip because he grew up. He was the guy at his school that was heavy into hip hop
Yep.
in high school, but he also was heavy in the boards of Canada. Venetia Snares, an Apex Twin, and Chris
Yep.
Clark, and Black Dog, and all those guys. And he's also from Texas,
Yep.
so there's a certain level of you know affinity for all these jarring, weird mathematic approaches. There's still some country shit in it, time to time. And
Yep.
shoot, we put together Surgeon General Warner while drinking 40s on our respective days off of work after college. You just made me think about that.
That's awesome. No, yeah. So it's a very different, yeah. Analog Tape Dispenser creates collages, where
Yeah,
sounds are together. Jeff Marquis, it's very different. It's very unified vision. It felt very bluesy to me. The album.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that because there was blues involved. There was definitely a lot of jazz, and it's interesting because the beat selection. Me and Jeff have been talking about working on the record for a very long time. He had actually he did a remix for New Age Middle Finger for the song Christmas all those years back, and he did all the glitch sound effects on Gunship Diplomacy.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, like that record actually. Him and AM Breakups, who engineered the whole thing, used to be roommates. And they were neighbors in the same building, across the hall from each other. So
Wow.
we would mix, sometimes record, then walk and give him the files. He would do glitch effects, walk across the hall, give him the breakups, and we'd
That's
work
awesome.
from there. So me and him have had a functioning working relationship for a long time. So I've been picking beats from him for a long time. And when we started really getting down with the record, it's interesting because I listen to a chunk of blues, especially more now. My father's side of the family is from the Mississippi Delta, blues area, from where blues comes from.
Absolutely.
So a lot of that approach is always involved in the way I kind of talk, the way I go about stuff. And when we're working on records, I think some of our conversations force that to kind of seep in. You know, so it feels like blues, even if it isn't a blues sample, for lack of a better way of putting it. You know, like it kind of has a tempo, or not necessarily a tempo, it has a meter about it. No,
Yeah.
that feels like that.
Yeah. No, it's hey, how did you when you listened to the new album, He Left Nothing to the Back, and then you listened to the older stuff, how did you feel about the difference in production and how it lived in your mind? Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, the new album, I felt like it was more, felt a little bit more grounded, like more personal
Okay. Okay.
to me.
Yeah.
I think it really hit its stride. Like it really started to click for me, and with track 3, East Side Summer.
Woo!
Yeah.
East Side
Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah.
I think like once you start, like once the album started incorporating, like you said, like the bluesy, the jazzy sounds to the
Yeah.
pulsating beat, it really started to click with me.
Oh,
That's
no,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's yeah, I've got lots of theories on this one. First, I want to
Oh,
say
please, please.
yeah, he left nothing for the swim back, but it's to me, Kay, this is the best first song of the year. Like in terms of, we always talk about first songs and how important they are, and the it takes a lot of stones to like be just name your album after the first song on the album. That's like that's something, you know. You're basically what you're
Yeah.
saying. The key is right here, you know. You better pay
Yeah.
attention. Track 1, the key is right here, and that's beautiful. It really, that first song feels like a few songs.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. It was a lot. Like it was kind of like, I can't say declaration of war, but it was one of those things where I realized I had to stick the landing. It's been 6 years, and there's a lot of things I have to talk about. There's a lot of things in regards to rap I wanted to address, a lot of things in regards to society. And like, rap titles are weird because sometimes you had a title before you had a song. Sometimes you name the title after this, a line. And that one was one of those things that like I think I named it after the line, but it was an important concept to me because I'm a big fan of the movie Gattaca. And I realized by the end of the song, anybody who I wanted to piss off, I wanted them to be successfully pissed off.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes.
Anybody I
Yep.
wanted to, it was just one of those things where like when it was time to name the album, I was like, this is it. This is it. Like, there was a lot of personal stuff going on at the time where I was like, this is the last thing people hear from me. It has to go this way.
Mm.
You know. Yeah, it was a lot. I was working on that song off and on in some form another for a year.
Wow.
You know.
So what prompted, you said there was like a 6-year gap between this and your last album. What prompted you to like come out and create this album?
Okay, so basically like some of the record I started writing after the Gunship Diplomacy was released because I write without beats a lot of times. I remember hearing Breeze Bruin say he did it. I go to a coffee shop, sit, stare into space, and start putting things together. And at one point, I know that there's something. This thing needs to be on a song. This thing needs to be a song. So I've been working on the record for a long while. We actually held on to this record just to make sure the timer was right for most of 2022. So the record had been done, I think, like 6 to 9 months before it came out. Because, we were talking to, Backwoods, we were talking to Woods and them about it. And it was just like, it could come out at this time, but it could only come out in this form. We were like, we'll wait till 2023. So that knocked a year off. That's 5 years back. It took 2 of the years was to write and record the record fully, so to speak. And we had COVID, so that knocked a lot off.
Oh yeah.
And while I was working on this record, we did a full Tomorrow Kings record that needs to be mixed right now, which is the next step of that. So there was a lot of stuff going on, like I was writing a lot. The thing that made it 6 years is that at one point I just had to handle life things a certain way. So I was writing a lot, but I wasn't recording as much. Truth be told, I haven't said it yet. I didn't have a home recording situation, and I got berated by my homie Mike Reeder at AM Breakups, one of my closest friends.
Yep.
And they basically, when I was sitting there talking to Woods on the street during the summer of like the lockdown, he was talking to me, telling me I need to get a record together. I was like, you know what, I'm working on something. They quietly bought a home recording situation and had it melt to my apartment.
Wow.
So Woods is talking to me on the street about needing to do a record soon. And they're like 10 feet away ordering that for me. So I still gotta, take care of them for that.
That's beautiful.
That was the summer of 2020. I was working on it since. So like, life things, can get in the way. But like the whole record itself is me explaining what happened between then and now, so to speak. So the record explains why it took 6 years.
Yep.
Makes sense. If you go through it. I think Eastside Summer might be the only song that isn't about that time period. Because Eastside Summer is about my childhood.
Oh.
Yeah, so just life. And I've been working in quiet other than guest appearances.
Yeah.
You got to be careful when to talk. You got to be mindful when you talk. Sometimes all you're doing is add noise to the room.
Oof. Yep. Amen. Amen.
That's fair. There's, and I think you are like, first I want to go into like, you are known for your voice, right? There's a lot of people who will talk about your delivery, right? And all over the place. I've heard people be like, he's too abrasive. I've heard that kind of calamitous response. There are some people who like, relaxed, caffeine-free rap music.
Yeah.
That's cool. But the voice is enormous, and I think maybe the comparison would be Tom Waits, right?
I've heard that.
Where Tom Waits has this insane voice, and what always struck me about Tom Waits, though, I was like, man, with that voice, you didn't even need to go that hard lyrically. Like, could have just kind of done some really emphatic groans, and we would have fucked with it. But so what I think gets slept on a little bit is the depth of your writing. How do you say, like, the full conceptualization that you managed to bring to a song. Example, Kay. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Gunship Diplomacy, the war.
Yeah, I did.
There's a song called the second song to the end, right? And there's a whole suite about the life of a jacket, right? Like, this girl, she fucks you, you think she's fucking you because a rapper, she just fucking you for the jacket. You got a good jacket on. And by the end, you're murdered for your jacket. And there's a full arc there that bookends.
Yes.
And that, to me, that's what's so incredible about SKECH185. It's not, there's bars, there's one-liners. You could make shirts of all the things, that are like,
thank you.
But like, as a writer myself, I'm the most struck by, like, God, we really fully explored.
It's very literary, like literary style of writing, in a way. Kind of like, it's almost, it's kind of like, Billy Woods in that same vein, but there's like a little bit more, like Billy Woods, he's very like, he's very laid back, like cool, but there's an intensity. It's like Dan was saying, like your voice adds an intensity to the story that makes it more vivid.
Yeah. Thank you. Like, I came up under Quell, a lot of respect. Typical cats where you're talking about dudes who were pretty academic in their approach, but were hard hitting and like, they didn't give you any breathing room, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Right.
Or it came up under my boy Riff Napalm, who goes by Still Riff now. Same thing, and Rubber Room and Thought For and my boy Gilead 7 and so on and so forth. And like that's where that's kind of like the Chicago I dealt with. So that kind of forms into it where you don't get to be lazy. No wasted word, and everything has to mean something. And you just keep hitting people. You hit people till they suffocate. You gotta keep going. Because especially when you're talking about a lot of us rapping before home recording equipment and studio time was prevalent. When you said something, people needed to remember it so they can say it to their boys later.
Yep.
And you keep that with you. And and like the rappers that we like were like that. You always, like I appreciate this. Like, like my style comes from like you have to, people have to get something new every time they hear you. It isn't designed to just be music that you're comfortable. It's not designed to be music you should be able to talk over.
Right.
Like I rap, so you have to interrupt the conversation. Like if you could talk over my music, you just heard it a lot, which I appreciate. But it's just not something that you're supposed to be able to zone out.
Yeah, there's a Chicago sense of urgency. Kay, when
100%.
I told you that I was a Scribble Jam maniac back in the day. When Rhyme Fest was in Scribble Jam, he would win a battle on one bar.
Mm-hmm.
He would his train of thought would start going, and once he got to that one bar, he's like, "You'll never come back. Do whatever you want. Say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Done." And very Chicago, immediacy.
You want to hear something funny?
Go for it.
That's how I beat Rhyme Fest in the battle.
What a life! What a life you live.
It wasn't a great battle. I was nervous, but I kind of went in on him. It was at Vakil's release party for The Darkest Cloud.
Jeez.
It was at Fireside Bowl. Mac Lethal was in town for another thing, and he ended up doing that show too.
Yep.
So Mac Lethal was in the crowd. As Rhyme Fest this is like Rhyme Fest when he was still performing parts of his verse from Jesus Walks.
Yeah.
First time any of us heard it, it's over 1,000 of us. He said he had a song with Kanye West called Jesus Walks.
Yeah.
And he performed the first verse of Jesus Walks. It was around that same time. The line where he goes, somebody tell these niggas who Rhyme Fest is. I walk in the valley with a shadow of death is. You know what I'm saying? And with that same time, he just was performing because he just was getting back into it from Indiana. He opened for Vakil and asked somebody to come on stage to battle. Well, boys pushed me on stage. I'm nervous because he's a legend. I forget which line it was, but I just hit him with something. Hit him with a couple things, and it threw him off so much that this young dude had something that it fucked up his train of thought, and he just kind of gave me a half hug and told people to make noise for me. He acted like a complete dick. He acted like a complete dick to me every time I seen him out there.
Sure.
But Mac Lethal saw it, and soon as he saw Kevin Beacham, or we were in the same place, he told Kevin Beacham about it. It was like, yo, this guy needs to be in Scribble Jam. Which I was in Scribble Jam 3 times. If you remember that.
Yeah, that's awesome. No,
I was the Chicago regional champ twice. And the second time, I was in Scribble Jam's first three-way battle with Deuce Leader and Reef the Lost Cause.
Woo! Reef? Oh, that.
Yeah, the year No Can Do one.
Right.
Yeah. Was it that year? No. It wasn't that year. It was the year before No Can Do one.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. But yeah, the literary style of your writing is really incredible. And on this one, there's some there's some songs that are organized in ways that I'm still floored by. Nights and Weekends comes to mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
The the interludes by the people. Shout out to Lieutenant Headtrip on that was unbelievable. But the vignettes where bartenders are talking about bartending, and then the verses about it, and the way it cuts together, and the way there's like background noise that's in the song. That it's just, it's a movie unto itself. It's a short film.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's like that was. I mean, like bartending. Like I've been in the service industry for almost 14 years. So it's one of those things because like it's the closest to legal drug dealing you could do at the time. It helped me pay for me pay my part for a lot of the music. Like help me pay my part for the Tomorrow King stuff, the War Church thing, so on and so forth. But with that, it's a troublesome life for those who don't live it with you.
right.
And I've been thinking about writing a song for a long time. Primrock, who's on the song with me, we used to work together.
Right.
When I first moved to New York, like a year and a half afterwards, we were chilling at his bar. I was working at this farm to table restaurant and a few other things. And he actually reached out, and his boss was there, and she hired me. I ended up working with him at his sister bar to his spot for almost a year. So occasionally me and him would work together, which was crazy. So I knew he had a story. Funny enough, Sway was a regular at the bar. He would come in and get food. Only time I've ever been starstruck. And Lieutenant Headtrip, we both lived in Astoria at the same time. And I recorded a lot with him. I recorded a lot of my previous album at his house. And he worked at the bar 4 blocks down. And there are times in which we both kind of commiserated about how much, working at a bar kind of soured our relationships. And, I just been needing to write that song. And honestly, I couldn't think of 2 better people to be involved in it. That was a song that was written. It took me, like, there were versions of the song written over like 2-3 years. Like I knew, like before I had a beat for it, I told Jeff there was a song I was working on called Nights and Weekends.
Yep.
About losing my life to nights and weekends. And when he played the beat, I just started kind of going through, and I was like, that's
the beat. Yeah,
that's the beat right there. And I started editing it, and started arranging it, and like me and Jeff went back and forth a lot on these tracks. And excuse me, like that song is arranged a lot the way it is, just because like I edit a lot. Most songs I do have 4 or 5 different edits to them. So, I'll go through the whole song, edit for flow, edit for content, research, edit to make sure I don't sound like my friends. So if there's a bar that sounds like I Be Focused, I re-edit it. If there's a bar that sounds like Lucid, I re-edit it, for examples, and move things around. And once I get it to there, okay, cool. Is this, have I, and also write, so I'm never going to write about the subject again. I just move on to the next subject. So there hopefully won't be a Nights and Weekends part 2. Or if it is, it'll come from a different side of it.
Yeah.
So I'll say all that to say, like, the reason why it was so layered in that way is that I wanted to say everything that I needed to say about that subject, so I could just exercise it from my thought process.
Yep. So,
if that makes any sense.
That
does.
That makes sense. And this is a safe place for overthinking any topic or idea, because I am here for that. I have Kay. A long time ago, me and the rapper were talking about Woods and the Run Woods song, right? And that rapper brought SKECH185 into the mix in a really interesting way and said, Sketch is the opposite side of the Force, like a Star Wars Force situation.
Okay.
From Woods. And that just kind of lives in my head. And I've put together a theory on it, right? That like,
all right,
Woods, the magic of Woods is that he tricks you into thinking that what he's talking about is easy to understand and normal, right? His tone of voice
Mm.
And the way he delivers it is so conversational.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is how the Russian Empire crumbled in the 80s. And you're like, what? Like, he he degravitases his situations. And where you are from the ambush school of it,
Yeah.
you are like hurling as much as possible at people, and your voice is a
Yeah.
part of that. And your beat choices are a part of that. But you are so it is kind of the opposite sides of the force, but it's still very literary, and it's
Oh, I
still
get that.
story-wise. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I need to dig in it more, but there were times in which I would get told about and read surrealist poetry and surrealist writing.
Yep.
And like The Invisible Man was a big influence too, where just the idea of like, I like the idea of like it almost seeming like, well, everything has a meaning to it. Every word has a meaning to it. If I mention a color, there are multiple meanings to it.
Oh, that's so
And like so like there's no moment in which I said it just to be said. But when you look at it and you go line for line, you will start picking out metaphors over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I just like the idea of like each line like kind of existed in its own world a certain way. And like sometimes being very elaborate. I love that. I love that. And maybe that's something I got from Aesop and some of the other homies.
yeah.
Well, let me not say I haven't met Aesop, but some Aesop and other homies I looked up to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's just something, and I love that because I like that it makes it deceptively simple. And I go, no, here goes a Bible passage about you know what I'm saying, about isolation, something like that. You know, I don't know, like the way I write is like I write until the verse says you've done enough.
That's awesome. That's a great point.
You know, sometimes it's simple. Sometimes because my boy ATD said something to me about one of the songs on our first record, where he was like, "Yo, it might sound weird, but sometimes you got to know when to shut the fuck up."
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And in which case, like I will look at something and go, "Is it time for me to shut the fuck up?" Like And if did y'all ever listen to Twister
Yep.
or at least Adrenaline Rush?
Oh
There's
yeah.
a song
Oh, yeah.
called Overdose where he keeps going and his voice stops him and goes, "All right now. Niggas that felt you already."
Yeah. He's talking to himself about stopping rapping. Yeah.
And
No,
like that's what I bring to the force.
hey, I always think about it in terms of comic book writers. Like comic book writers, when they're early on, they're writing a ton within the page, and it gets to the point where you can't even see what's happening in the picture. It's so many words.
Yeah.
Like, over the course of their career, they'll get better at being more concise and what you need, and letting the picture breathe and letting the characters express it physically. And that's just a different level of kind of Ed Brubaker style writing.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into my question, like, where did you learn how to organize? Because I would say as a rapper, like you're very organized, which really helps accent your message. So where did you learn your organization skills in terms of rapping and putting projects together?
What you mean? You mean in terms of like the way the words are sequenced or the songs are sequenced, or both?
I would say both. I would say if you want to touch on both.
Okay. I mean, like, let's see. In terms of it's funny. Out of all the rap songs that had a heavy influence on me, one of the ones that changed everything was Aesop Rock's song with the Opus called "Take Me to the Basement."
Oh wow, that's dope.
Where he goes through his whole verse. When he goes through the beginning of his verse, out of nowhere he goes, "She applied the lipstick slow enough for me to bask in, fast enough for me to wish it last to pass my alarm cackling." And something about that, he was just going on a run of metaphors. Then he switches to the image of his girlfriend getting ready for work. That's how I interpret it. And in which case, like, it gave the concept of a cutscene. And that was the first time I thought about, a rap verse as cutscenes. Where you can where you can sequence things. You can sequence things to not only just be dope, but to manipulate the emotions of which a person has listening to the record. Which is an important thing. Like a good bar isn't a good bar everywhere. Just because it's a dope bar doesn't mean it begins the verse, and it doesn't mean that it can end the verse. Like a lot of times when I write like because I used to do graffiti. I got my degree in illustration. My cousin Bill Smurs and his boy Time DS Crew told me early on, keep every drawing. Napkins, back of mail, keep it all, store it, file it, all an idea. And for a very long time, I did that with my rhymes. Any napkin I ever wrote something on, I put it in my notebook, so on and so forth. And sometimes it's because you will have an idea for a line, and you know that line is supposed to be in the middle of the verse. You know it can't be the first line. There are times in which I know that, like, I need 10 to 12 lines, 10 to 12 bars just to get to this one thought. If I put it too early in the rhyme, it breaks apart. It doesn't make sense. If I put it too late, now it's just me trying to be deep for the sake of being deep. And you get things like that. So that's kind of how I figured out the writing of it, where it's like you go, okay, this is when this needs to happen. Like, because I do believe verses have sections, not just always a beginning, middle, and end, but not just beginning, middle, and end. They have sections and moments in them. It switches, and I get that from listening to Jay-Z and his flow, like especially older stuff, where he'll go through a run that will do an eternal rhyme scheme for one bar, and it will only rhyme for that one bar, and he'll go on to another section, or go back and do that while completing the thought. But in terms of putting together the records, it's a mix between, like, say, growing up listening to LP and growing up realizing that a lot of bands put together better, more properly arranged records. Where they're like, this song has to be in the middle of the record. We used to be real critical of track 6 on the album because it's almost a midway point. Where track 6 is important because people have gotten enough of your thoughts to decide, pretty much to decide how they feel about the album.
Right.
Six tracks in, especially if you're talking a 12-track, 18-track record, they know 6 tracks in whether they think it's a dope album. And even if it's not, even if you have 10 tracks and other 4 are bad, I'm gonna say it's good because 6 out of 10 is pretty good. You know what I'm saying? And like so I would figure out, I would lay the songs out and go, this is how I want you to feel in the beginning of the album. This is how I want you to feel at the end of the album. And from there, it's building the emotions leading to it. Like I knew that there was a point in which I knew that after I wrote the Western Automatic Music verse, second verse, well, that song is something else because that actually there's a whole story about how that happened. But more or less, I knew that I needed certain songs to exist in a certain order. If I didn't do it in a certain order, that verse wouldn't make sense.
Yep.
I couldn't put that song anywhere else on the record because if I did, you wouldn't have learned enough about me for the last bar to make sense.
Oof.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, we talked to Illogic a little bit ago, and Illogic said the first song on his last album, he had it for 10 years. And he sat with it because he wasn't living the way he was speaking in the song yet. And once he put it out. And
I understand where it was coming from.
Damn. So, responsibility to yourself to kind of put the work out that represents where you are. So, but yeah, no, that's awesome. And I have my theory, Kay, about this album. It's such a cool album, and I'm so glad it's on Backwoods because I think the reason why it's great that it's on Backwoods is Backwoods actually has the audience that wants to pick apart the levels of your meaning.
All right, yes.
That makes sense. Like people,
absolutely.
People who love Woods, people who love the Akai solo, people who love the all the stuff that came out, they're gonna love digging into this for the next 8 months, 10 months, a year, because that's how they study this stuff, and that's not something that you can expect from every audience. But
absolutely.
For me, like the first album that I remember, that he left nothing for the swim back, to me has two sides. Two sides. The first album that I remember knowing that it had two sides was Ice Cube's Death Certificate. Okay, that has a life side and a death side, and he dies at the end of the life side, and it starts the death side. It's very declared. There's two sides. This isn't like that, but the second you say I would have been a server at Idlewild, that feels like a second side of the album.
Actually, it's funny. In theory, thank you for saying this. Like, we had to divide the record for vinyl.
Yep.
But because of that, it is two sides. So, if I'm not mistaken, that you're absolutely right.
Awesome.
Like, I believe that's when side B starts.
The River, yeah, the River, because that side one is the ambush side. That is when you like. So to get more specific about it, the first two songs, the title track and Badly Drawn Hero, that is your thesis paragraph, right, of your essay.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me tell you what is actually going on. You're very good at being omniscient, right? Like, it just kind of. The second two, East Side Summer, Kay brought that up. East Side Summer is where you get transported into what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You are on the block. He moves you on the block. I'm no longer explaining it. You're here, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's when 3 and 4 are like that. So you start living that on J Street and all that stuff. When my first listen to this album, I was just like, J Street, fuck. Just can't sit. So those two, and then you get to the River, and from the second he says, I would have been a server at Idlewild, and breaks down serving racist people. You get I'm calling that side like PTSD hangover. Like, that is where you start to feel the weight of what had happened on side A and the problems that were articulated. You start feeling the weight and the pain, and how the pain shapes the music, and how the music shapes America, and how America feeds the pain that shapes the music.
I mean, here's the thing about Idlewild. Are you familiar with the place Idlewild?
I'm not as familiar as I should be.
Old vacation place. It was black owned and black run. I mean, black owned.
With the Outcast movie?
That's what they named it after, if I'm not mistaken. And in which case, when I would have been a server at Idlewild, it was me being a lower class black guy serving rich black people.
Yep.
So it wasn't even I was necessarily serving racists per se. I was serving like people who believed they were better than me.
Yep.
Because if I was better, I wouldn't be a server. Which is why, one of the things that a historian said, which always stuck with me, is that in the South, businessmen were the first ones lynched. Because they wanted to disrupt the community.
Right.
And no matter how rich you were, you had a green book. So no matter how rich you were in your town, in your city, that meant nothing when you traveled through the country. Right. So you were just exactly who I was till you got to this place, and you continued, and you now took your turn to shit on me. Now you had the chance to feel the way, at least think you feel the way the people shit on you felt looking at me. And I didn't know, neither of my parents have degrees. My father's a janitor. My mom works at a glass factory now. A lot of my family's just blue collar. I have a degree and a few others. But we never, I didn't come from an academic family, so to speak, like that. I come from an upper middle class, barely middle class family, realistically. So, I always thought about it. Like, if I was ever in one of those situations,
Right.
what if, I wouldn't have been the one eating, I'd have been the one wearing the vest, having to quietly listen to them talk about how they stopped being me at one point.
Yeah. It's just the booming voice that kind of led you through the world is now saying, I'm never going to be above anybody. Like,
Yeah,
that's not going to happen
Yeah.
for me. And like, that's not the typical like path of an MC. And that really sets the stage for Nights and Weekends.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yes.
I love that. I love the transition of this album. Yeah, I don't know.
I appreciate that because like that was a part of the record in which we felt needed to be dark. There were actually 2 songs that didn't make this cut of the record that are going to come out on a different version soon.
Ooh, deluxe.
And yeah, and because I remember having a conversation with Woods about taking them off, and he was just like, "This sequence is dope, but it's an EP on its own."
Right.
And it kind of pulls you out of the situation, where I wanted that. Well, we agree we wanted that level of somberness
Yep.
to it. You know what I'm saying? Because like The River and Nights and Weekends kind of like does a good job of dealing with the 6-year the 6-year gap of life that wasn't music, or the parts in the 6 years that wasn't music. And Nights and Weekends, like, ooh, I didn't mention this, but I rewrote that a few times. And after I stopped talking to the lady, who's the lady I was talking to before, the girlfriend I have now, I stopped and I rewrote the end of it to mention her. And what happened at the bar in the song hadn't happened at that time. It did happen to me not too long ago.
Wow.
The entire scene played out. Almost completely played out at my bar.
Amazing.
I didn't think I was wondering whether it would, but then like, I don't want to timestamp this too much, but not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
Had the conversation, pretended like we didn't know each other. Served her and her date.
Mm-hmm.
They left. And I had to take a moment to myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did that moment feel like? Like when real life reflected, so real life reflected art. Usually art reflects real life. What did it feel like when real life reflected your art?
I didn't really process it until right now. Like right now, I just thought about it. I was like, yeah, that did happen. Because I wrote it based on her previous behavior.
Yeah.
I was like, this is probably gonna happen. And me and my coworkers, because I worked at a fairly popular bar, and bar in Queens that's written about quite a bit as one of the best bars in New York. In which case, a lot of us worked there a lot, and a lot of our lives end up being involved in that. So romantically, a chunk of your life is involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because like a lot of people meet their partners at the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's no different for bartenders either, especially when you're working 5-6 days a week. So I mixed the fact that I was like, she's not gonna stop coming here. Might stop coming here the days I work. But she's not gonna stop coming here. Because I've seen people fight over custody of the bars that they get to keep going to their relationships in.
Yeah.
I've watched it happen at the bar I work in. Where they go, my ex was here and he knows it's my bar. So I took the fact that, I knew that she was gonna keep coming to my job on dates.
Yep.
The fact that we've all dealt with some version of that and put it in the song. But it was right now that I thought about it and went, oh, everything I said played out almost exactly the way I mentioned it.
Yeah, you can't help that shit. Like you as a writer, sometimes you're writing yourself into the future. You're thinking about how shit can happen. And then when you're right, it does feel fucked up. But it doesn't necessarily feel great. It's not
It's
feel like I can,
because
you don't have power. You just stumbled into it. It's wild. It's wild.
I mean, I just walked myself into an argument by even saying this in the right then.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's something that I internalized and can't really talk to everybody about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Also, the record came out, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like if the lady who was mentioned in it hears the record, she'll know it's her.
That's awesome.
But she'll also know there's no way in hell that I could have recorded it. You know what I'm saying? In the time that it took for it to happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Uh-oh.
So it's a tricky one.
It was interesting to hear.
No, you were right about the A side and B side.
That's awesome. You were talking about Woods and talking to Woods about the theme of this record and how it needed to be. And I was thinking of that makes sense because his verse on the last track is it's in eulogy voice.
Yeah.
It's very delivering at the funeral. But B, it's really good disappointed in you, Woods. Woods is great at being disappointed in different people. Whether it's Nas or people who look like Stringer Bell and Clapton. Good at clowning you with disappointment, and in this somber way that really does help define that PTSD hangover side, where you just have these fragments stuck in you of shit that sucks. Yeah,
definitely. It's funny. So Western Automatic music. The reason why it was part 1 and part 2 because it was the exact same song.
Yep.
So the beat of part 2, just in relation to Woods, because it makes sense. Beat to part 2 was actually the original beat. So my first verse was over that beat.
Right.
And Woods came in with that verse with that. And I was just like, and I say thank you to him because I knew that Western Automatic music was probably going to be the last song.
Right.
But when I heard his verse, I was like, at the time when I was waiting on this verse to come back, I was like, man, I need to write a second verse for this beat. I need to write a second verse for this beat. And then I wrote my 2.5 minute long second verse. And I heard Wood's verse for it because I thought I was just going to do an extended deluxe version. I heard Wood's verse for it, and I was like, that's great, but that not be the last verse people hear on the album. It's a great verse, but it can't be the last verse.
Right.
So talking to Woods about it, he was like, yeah, you should probably do a part 1 and put it out first, then put out part 2 later. I was like, you know what? I recorded mine, put his verse first, put my verse last. I told Colossal Structure about it from Gyroscope and Tomorrow Kings.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, me and Woods about to do a song for the record. He was like, nigga, I'm doing the chorus. he hadn't heard the beat yet. I said to him, like, yeah, I'm doing the chorus of this. So we basically did the song, which ended up being like a 6-minute song. It was like the song's too long. This is the beauty and genius of Jeff Markey.
Yep.
He sliced it in half and made a completely new beat or part 1. And because he listened to when I said the kids really love the kids still love the ice cream song.
Yep.
And he took the sample and decided to flip it to sound like an ice cream truck. But he didn't realize the line was referencing the song. I played it for him later. He didn't realize I was referencing the song nigga eating watermelon. Niggas eating watermelon. Which is the song that most ice cream trucks play to this day.
Oh.
So no matter what neighborhood you go in, if you're in a black neighborhood and you see black kids running to the ice cream truck, as it does happen, they're all running to the ice cream truck to the tune of niggas eating watermelon.
Wow. Fucking America. What are you gonna do? That's
Yeah,
just...
and we split it in half. And because of that, because Woods came in, he actually didn't come in where I wanted to. Wanted him to. He came in like 2 to 4 bars later.
Yep.
And I was just sitting there like, the fuck. But then when we split it in half, people like, what are we gonna do with the beginning of it? I went, leave it like that. So Woods incidentally made his own intro.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I haven't even talked to him about that yet.
That's I think it's a great closer, because it is just the total opposite energy of the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. It was any other guest verses that stuck out to you, or guest appearances where you were like, ooh?
Let me pull it up. I mean, I thought the East Side Chicago. I'm sorry, East Side Summer. Yeah, I mean, I thought tracks 3 and 4, like the guest verses on those 2 songs were just, those were kind of like the highlight of the album for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I mean, just
that's what's up. That's dope.
So I'll read it out. So IB Folks, Colossal Soul Structure, the Solar 5. So if I remember correctly, like there's like I really like, I asked you about the organization because I really liked how East Side Summer was organized.
Okay,
like how that song was mapped out. And particularly like how Solar, because I'm guessing Solar 5 was the last verse. Verse.
No, Solar 5 is the guy who talks in between tracks. You know what I'm saying? And he's from the southeast side of Chicago. And I was like, I could do a course, but fuck that. People will mention East Side, people will mention Terrortown, people will mention O Block, which is kind of southeast, but it's not that far east. Mm-hmm. People will mention like shit like that. But I can't think of a single song about that neighborhood or about that part of the city. So I was like, so if this is the first time we're gonna really talk about that side of the city without it just being like, platitudes and like shit to make it sound hardcore. Let me have him break down things that only make sense if you grew up over there or hung out over there. And in which case, it's beautiful to me because I am so happy nobody knows what the fuck we're talking about if they're not from there. Now you have to do your Googles. And you know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden you start hearing these blocks. These are just places that don't get talked about. Hell, when Google Maps came out and Google Street came out, there was a point at which people like, oh, Google's mapped out every street in Chicago. I was like, no, they haven't. It's like, they're like, yes, they have. What are you talking about? I was like, no, they haven't. I promise you they're too scared to go to the east side. They're like, fine. I was like, cool. Type in my address. 7420. Type in the address of when I first moved back to Chicago as a kid. Type in my address, 7423 South Kingston, which is the three-story building that I grew up in, East Side Summer's about. They typed it in, looked for it, not a single fucking Google Street option. That block. Wow. I could draw that block from memory. Not a single Google Street option. That's how dangerous it is, and that's how crazy that is. So I had Solar 5 talk, because that gives everybody an introduction.
See the organization.
That's why we were always joking, like, this is probably one of the most Chicago songs ever.
So do you have all but 2 Tomorrow Kings on this album? Or is this how many did you
Let's
have?
see.
7? You got 7?
I'm missing 3. Funny enough, Steel Rift is calling me right now.
Oh, there you go. No, he's
Steel Rift was calling me, and Jeff Markey just gave me a message. Yeah, shout out to Steel Rift. That's my big brother right there. But let's see.
Love it.
Lamont is no longer in the crew, but he's still one of our best friends. But the crew, but the only people that were missing who are on this, but are on me and Jeff's follow up, which we're working on now, were Gilead 7, Malak L, and Il Sublimo, who also goes by Wizard Jenkins the Great at 30 something. Like, just those three are the only ones that are missing. So Colossal Structure IB focuses on there. Lamont, who used to be in the crew, is on there.
Lamont.
I try to get somebody from the crew on everything.
Yeah, no, there's something special about you and your relationship with Lamont on records. That chemistry. Yes. I love when you and Lamont are together. Lamont Manuel is one of the most interesting people. Has one of the great breakup albums. His insane 2016.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful, crazy.
Absolutely. And there are tracks that didn't make the album that were incredible.
Yeah.
Me and Lamont, yeah. So here's the thing about me and Lamont, because like how Ghost and Red and Meth are, and shit like that, where the more you hang out with each other, the more certain things unspokenly kind of tie together.
Yeah.
So one of the things that brought a lot of us and Tomorrow Kings together is that we're almost all Southsiders, and pretty much all Southsiders or lived on the South Side for the most part. And a lot of us don't drive. So we took a lot of public transportation everywhere. And a lot of what we had shows and shit we went to on the North Side. So at the end of the night, a lot of times we were running to each other from our various events on the way home. Me and Lamont used to run into each other on the late night bus 2 to 3 times a week for a while, probably a year or two on the way home before Tomorrow Kings formed. And from there, me and him just kept hanging out even when Tomorrow Kings formed. So there was a lot of exchange of thoughts and things like that over time. So there's just a certain chemistry we developed. And we used to perform in Chicago under the group name Frank McIntyre. My last name is McIntyre and his middle name is Francois. So we thought it was cool to go by Frank McIntyre. So we would do mashups of our songs and songs we were working on together as a group, So we just kind of learned how to gel a certain way. And with that, it comes through on songs. Like on Special Diplomacy, just for a brief moment, Down kept the song with him and Colossal Structure. A lot of it at one point I built around something that he said, even though it's my song.
Right.
And I built the chorus-like thing around that. And it's just because we've worked together so much that I realized that there are certain things that he does that I just don't do or don't know how to do because my brain doesn't work that way. Vice versa. So when we work together, I will lean into letting him do the things that aren't in my toolbox.
Yeah. You're covering maximum space. And that's why J Street kind of stands out to me because it's so singular, right? In terms of delivery and where his brain goes, and Lamont very much the same way. And having all that together is great. Yeah.
And the weird part is a lot of us and a lot of people from Chicago, quite a few people from Chicago get their style from Rip, even if they don't know it. Rip is 5 years older than me. He's the same age as Open Mike Eagle. Him and Lamont and Open Mike Eagle went to the same high school, kind of at the same time, but they're just slightly older.
Yep.
Like Rip and his crew, Acrobats, particularly him, this cat Pugs Adams and this dude Chips Penium, came up with a rap style that basically became the thing that kids, younger heads, modeled their freestyle and writing technique after.
Wow.
So when I was coming up, the guys around me were imitating Rift. And there's a point in which Quell had his rap style, but started fucking around, hanging around Rift, and he took on some of Rift's style. So there's a certain section of Quell's career and a certain part of his aesthetic he gets from Rift.
Right.
Just Riff is underappreciated, is as underappreciated as he probably is underrecorded, even though he has a bunch of stuff that has come out and stuff on the way. So the weird part is, it's kind of, in certain respects, watching us do parts of Still Riff style on a song with him while doing our own shit.
Amazing.
You know, there's a lot more to my style than just that. I just want to say that just to get that in the world, because that is definitely a part of it. So it's cool watching him kick the song off.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that clarification. Okay, I was going to ask you, what did you have any standout lines that struck you listening to it? He left nothing for the swim back. Do you have anything that sticks with you?
I mean, no lines in particularly, but I thought nights and weekends. I thought the spoken word parts were very powerful. Not only on nights and weekends, but through the whole album. Like I thought,
okay,
it kind of ties back what you said. There not being any ways, because a lot of times when people put like spoken word or they put like excerpts in the album, it's for like an aesthetic feel type of thing.
Yeah.
But I felt like they were really applicable to the message. Whenever you did it, it wasn't just for aesthetic's sake. It was because it was applicable to the message you were trying to deliver in the song.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you know, you can't put it. Oh, sorry about that. I just got another reminder about this interview in my phone.
Yep. No,
but yeah, like it's just I didn't like you can't waste time. So
Right.
so I appreciate that. You know, because that means that actually it did what it was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, there's a few for me, Kay, of like Up to Speed. I posted this earlier today. Those headlines had birthdays before they became your entertainment.
Yeah.
Hell of a line. And it's more powerful within context, right? Because you start discussing verse of like Chicago violence, bring that shit to me. Like, and you know, you start engaging in the verse with this kind of, oh my gosh, reaction to Chicago violence. And that line is just really powerful in that song.
That was actually a jab to a few people I've dealt with in New York, where when they don't have anything to talk about, they try to talk to me about Chicago violence.
Yep.
But they also try to talk to me sometimes like, because of the way I speak, because of the way I work, like I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
Like some reason I live in a neighborhood that the motherfuckers have never been to Chicago, the ones who do this. Right. So it's always funny. Like, and you know, there's a Chicago gang that's prevalent out in New York right now. You know, that's a different story to itself. But I said, you know, I put that line in there just for people to kind of shut the fuck up. Because like when you talking to me about this, like I might know these people. My cousins don't fuck with Chief Keef, for example.
Right.
So like sometimes I see shit on the news and the motherfucker on the news I'm related to.
Right.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, I watched a friend's family lie about some shit on the news to protect the legacy of their friend. I mean, their family member. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shit's real. So, but that's why I put that line there, and I'm happy you love that. And, you know, and that's why I flipped the Shook Ones line afterwards.
Yeah. No, there's
you know, when a slug penetrates, you feel a burning sensation.
Yeah.
When a call penetrates, you feel a sinking sensation. Yeah. Yeah, because like it's like I'm happy that that hit.
There's a lot of
it came from me trying to figure out. It came from me trying to figure out how to rhyme. I agree all Chicago crime questions with DuSable information. Because John Baptiste Point DuSable is the founder of Chicago, a Haitian guy. Yep. Chicago was the first non-native resident of Chicago was a black man. So whenever people come at me with shit like that, I give them facts about like black inventors and shit like that in Chicago, just to fuck with them.
Yep, that's the way.
You know,
Yeah, there's another line. I forget if it was an East Side Summer, but it was like, you know, my uncle passed away because that's what uncles did back then.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh no. He's still alive. He's still alive. About to open a restaurant. He just got shot.
Oh
Why?
yeah, he
They
got
shot the shit
shot.
out.
Right. Sorry. That's
Like
big misquote.
no, they shot the shit out of him. But this was like, you know, like 28 years ago now. But my uncle got shot because that's what happened to uncles back then. He was from the other. He was on the wrong side of the tracks, literally. Black Peastone Rangers,
right,
on that side of the city, and the gangster disciples. Their territories are divided, separated by train tracks. Mm-hmm. And because he, you know, I won't go too deep into it, but motherfuckers knew who he was.
Yeah.
He knew that he wasn't supposed to be hanging around there. And he was just chilling with his best friend in the car. Somebody recognized him, rolled up to the side of the car, lit it up. He survived. He's had mad kids since then. He has a restaurant on the way. You know, I hope he's doing all right now. And all of that happened 3 blocks away from my apartment.
Wow.
So I used to have to walk past where my uncle got shot to go to school every day. But when I was in class that year, kids were all talking because this is summer '95, which I believe is the summer either '94, '95, which was the most violent summer in Chicago history. It was like 937 confirmed murders. That's not counting people disfigured by gun violence.
Right.
And that's not counting the hundreds who died from heat stroke. But yeah, it was just a lot of violence in the city. And I'm sitting in class and I'm hearing my classmates talk about their father get shot, their uncles getting shot, their cousins getting shot, their brothers getting shot. I'm not saying this, but I'm realizing that's just what we were dealing with at 10 years old. My uncle got shot because that's what happened to uncles back then.
It's a beautiful description because it sets the stage for, like, you know, I know it's amazing to you, but it's just how life, like, this is just what it is. Like, I remember somebody asked Daz Dillinger why he became a Crip, and Daz said, "My mom's a Crip, my dad's a Crip. Like, my relatives. This is the neighborhood. Like, and there's no context. Without context, you can't. You're just making shit up. You know."
Absolutely. Yep. Oh, absolutely. There's a guy I worked with who was from Crown Heights, and he tried to stand over me like I'm some GD. I just laughed and just went, "Dog, I grew up with this shit. You're from New York. Why? Why do you volunteer for this shit?" I knew motherfuckers who got blessed in just because they family with GDs,
right?
Blackstones or Vice Lords. You know, might not have had to get jumped in, but they were immediately that. Had to be given the literature, memorize all the shit, so on and so forth. And I grew up where if you weren't from that neighborhood, it was assumed you were a rival gang. People would see you at a party, have a conversation with you like everything's cool, and figure out what block you're from. And if they weren't worried about heat coming back to them from potentially fucking with somebody from that block, they're gonna box with you or try to shoot you.
Right.
Or not even want to kill you, but shoot at you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's and I was like, why do you want to be involved in, why do you want to be involved in this?
Right.
Like that's, it's a weird thing, but I put all that into that one line, try it.
No, you did. It is infused, and there's a lot of it's not just the literary, like, understanding of the song. It's real emotions, real feelings, real heart and impact, commitment. Kay, you remember we talked about how art is embarrassing?
Yes.
Art is embarrassing. And like, because doing art is embarrassing, very few people really give of themselves, right? Like, finish share a little sliver of something that might be real, but who knows, right? And because it's embarrassing to really kind of gut yourself, and Sketch, you've continually used expert craft to gut yourself, to really ground.
Yes, thank you.
And that's, I mean, that's the ambush nature of what you do is like, it feels like a Dirty Dozen suicide mission into your art, in a way.
I mean, like it became something that Tomorrow Kings, as we all got older, that in certain respects we were like, we don't have time to play around with people. We have kids. I don't, but a lot of us have kids. We all got nieces, nephews. We all mentor people. We're gonna bar you up, but we also are kids that grew up listening to Scarface and shit like that. But we're gonna give you something that sticks to the ribs that fucks with you. Yep. And like, you know, like one of my favorite examples, one of the best rap lines ever was imagine peace in the world and there's no grief. Now imagine grief in the world and there's no peace.
Yep.
Simple as hell, but nobody else thought of it. But it also says a lot. So, you know, it's kind of just chasing that. And, you know, honestly, like this record came at a time in which I was very worried about my health.
Right.
So, you know, so like this one, I was like, I'm gonna get as much out of it as I can if this is my last time to say it. I was just like, you know, everything's cool now. But you know, I was just like, if I gotta leave it all on the field, let me do it. Not only that, but let me leave all that there. So next time I don't have to talk about it.
Right. And that is weird. When you complete something the right way, you get to look at it and feel a sense of relief. Like, I don't say any more about that shit. It's right there. Right.
Yeah. I mean, like every so many years, me and my brother, because same father, different mothers, but 5 months apart. So we're in the same grade. We grew up together, running parallel. Yep. You know, we will be drinking and he'll go, yo, bro, remember that time we saw a dude get hit with a shotgun when we were kids? And in which case, I was tired of just always still having that in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote East Side Summer, and me and Colosso and IB Focus. Basically, Tomorrow Kings used to meet every week.
Yep.
For years. And very often, because a lot of my crew members were still living in that part of the city, they would be on their way home and be seeing a shootout about to happen. Or about to go home, and their family is like, you know what, stay at one of your friend's house tonight because they shooting outside.
Right.
And we're in our 20s, mid-20s, late 20s. So one of my homies see people running down the street, so he think they're running away from violence, looks and sees one cat with a long-ass pistol and realizes he's running towards the shootout and turns around. And we're in our 20s dealing with it. So I reached out to two cats, I reached out to Gyroscope, was like, yo, are y'all down to talk about 2 moments of y'all childhood in which y'all saw violence? We have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they were like, yeah. And they both talked, and they both talked about 2 of the incidents.
Incredible.
You know.
No,
it's a lot. Now you don't want to talk about it again.
No.
We're gonna have to perform the song a bunch, now, but like we're not gonna write it. We're not gonna get back to writing it again,
No, that is how committed the album is. I think it's a real important pace setter album that I hope pushes everyone's pen to deeper places, because this is impactful, and this is a career record that
thank you.
It shows a side of SKECH185 that needed to be shown.
I appreciate that.
A connection to the blues and to what the blues means, and the connection to rap music and to America that's really important and people should grow with in terms of that understanding.
I mean, thank you. Because you work on things, and I worked on this for a long time, and you never know how people are going to absorb it. Like I said, it came Sunday, it came out on Friday.
Yep.
So people still, people still learning the record, still dissecting the record.
Mhm.
And the fact that it's gotten such positive feedback so far, I'm just very appreciative of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited that you get to release it in a spotlight that is going to allow people to really feed it and enjoy it and love it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's going to grow in the light.
Yeah, and shout out to Woods and Phantom Power, over at Backwoods for being down to rock with the record and really enjoying the record and really put that effort behind it.
Nope.
Because like there's only so much time every year. There's only so much money every year. There are only so many slots every year. The fact that they were down to put muscle and effort behind it, appreciate it.
That's awesome. So, Kay, do you have anything else before we go to recommendation corner?
No, just great talk.
Another beautiful, beautiful time. So Bandcamp Friday happened. I certainly went nuts and copped a bunch of stuff. I want to rep some of it. I love Malcolm Strachan, Strachan, from the UK, trumpeter, released an album called Point of No Return. It's really dope jazz album. Jazz has changed so much and experimented so much, successfully and unsuccessfully, that like I kind of love and need a classic trumpeter first jazz album, and Strachan does that. I love it. No one to shout that one out. There's lots. Oh, Kay, did I tell you about the Sun Mundi project that I'm doing?
No.
So Sun Mundi's dope, great rapper, and releasing his first album later on in the month. And I've loved a lot of the Lucy's that he has on Bandcamp. And so what I've decided to do is I bought all the Lucy's on Bandcamp Friday. And I'm going to organize them into my own unauthorized album. And I'm going to do a piece kind of explaining the album and my sequence, why it is the way it is. And it's called, my unauthorized album is called Album Closers, because every Sun Moody sounds like an album closer. So yeah, check out some Sun Mundi if you get a chance there. Oof. Also, shout out to Midas the Beast, who put out The Devil's Playground with Del Dig. And yeah, great follow up, different direction. Love it. Yeah. Oof. I can't wait to have Stick Figure on again. Try to firm that up. Called Pookie, that is beautiful and very human. And he's just the most normal dude in rap. It's great. But yeah, he does that thing where he will talk about the violence in his community, but he's very clear that he's just not the guy. He's the guy who's friends with all. Hearing that perspective, because most rappers are like, I'm the dawn of the clique and I send the murder weapons forward. And he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm the cool guy, the funny guy, and I help everybody out. But I wish everybody the best. He's a great.
Yeah, he's dope. He's really dope.
Yeah, great MC. So yeah, that's where I'm at. SKECH185. What are you listening to? What do you want to recommend to the people?
Let's see, and I apologize. This week has been interesting because I've been working 6 days this week. Ooh. I would have had 2 days off in the last 2 weeks.
Damn.
But let's see. It's been a light one. I've listened to I've been playing the Sauce Walker Ghetto Gospel record on repeat.
I love that.
Ghetto Gospel 3.
Yep.
I was listening to the Sauce Walker a lot when working on this record.
Yep.
You probably could hear it come through in certain respects. There's this cat from my hometown who I just really started getting into, Kill Vanguard.
Oh,
his album, I Think I Lost It, is incredible.
Yep.
It is absolutely incredible. Let's see, like that. I checked out the new Lil Yachty. I'm only
Yep.
I'm only 5
Yeah.
songs in. I'm enjoying what I've heard with that one, to be real. My brother Uncommon NASA just re-released C87 by Sabe and BMS.
Damn.
15th year anniversary of it. And that's sounding incredible. This is my first go round with it, but like I've always been a fan of Sabe.
Oh yeah.
I've always been a fan of Sabe, so you know, shout out to him. BMS is dope. I'd only heard like 2 tracks from him, so getting a full project is really cool. I'm finally taking the time I should have taken to listen to Teller Banks.
Oh my gosh.
Who's
Oh, the Big Lebowski East Side
like,
Jesus.
like
I can't stop listening to it. Yeah.
and there's a like the cat's just a serious talent.
Yep.
You that Sons of Kemet, I stay playing that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new post-punk group called Lifeguard.
Yep.
All like 18 years old out of Chicago. I just saw them perform like 3 weeks ago. Fantastic. One of the tightest drummers I've seen in a long time. And it's crazy hearing this from kids coming straight out of high school.
Yep.
Like those are definitely the ones that I've been, rocking with, getting back, getting more into VB Brown, Maxo Cream has been constant lately.
Oh, I love Maxo Cream. Great stuff.
Like from there, just honestly, you can't copy, but just listening to demos of my boy Riff shit.
Yep.
And the variant projects that I know are coming out, and little bits of like Def C and a few of the other homies.
Woo.
And Controller 7.
I wanted to shout out an album that is going to come out. It hasn't come out yet. I haven't even heard it all yet. It comes out March 20th, 2023. I've heard 3 songs from it. But it's Chicago MC named Water, with 2 R's.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Water, it's called Compendium of Arcanum. And it it features Def C, features Bohemia Lynch, beats by Flu, Pharma Beats, Machacha, Timepiece, Mighty Healthy, and it's Water is a very serious individual. Last year had an album called but I love the group that kind of the production group, Mighty Healthy and Timepiece work together with Flu and a bunch of people. They call themselves a little bit, and that Lupara group, they do great work on the production side. I'm excited to hear Water over those beats. Hobgoblin is a part of that. Yeah, it's gonna be really good.
Hell yeah!
Yep.
Thank you. Like I'm not familiar with the young brother. I'm gonna spend some time with him. Before work now.
Water is dope. Shout out to everybody who's been showing love. We've got. I don't want to spoil this, Kay. We're in early discussions to have someone who was in the early side critical to Backwoods in the early developments write a series of articles for us about life in the early days of Backwoods, right? No gotcha shit, no weird Vlad type shit, but just like what was life like before all of this? How did this start? And I can't wait. I think it's going to be so cool. So
awesome.
Yeah. So shout out to Zilla Rockin for being a piece of that and helping that out.
Oh yeah. Peace to Zilla.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Everybody. So yeah, and I appreciate it. I can't wait to see your interview with the Rap Music Plug podcast and you making the rounds. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I got like it's the first time in a long time. It was good. Peace to him over there. It's got quite a few interviews to do soon.
I appreciate
and I
it.
appreciate it. I appreciate it because that means people are enjoying what they're hearing. So that means a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They're connecting with it.
your piece of the history of Chicago is absolutely critical, right? The more you know about where you've been and what you've done and who you've been around, the more you know about the whole scene. So if you love this album, please do it all, right? Please do it all. Please go back. Please,
Yeah.
you left nothing for the swim back. Please find Tomorrow Kings, the Tomorrow King archives that Lamont has posted. Find as much of it as you can, and get up on it because it's beautiful. So, yep.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
time,
you.
Dallas.
What will tomorrow bring? What will tomorrow